Today we will be discussing the community of inquiry and how it relates to curriculum implementation at a distance. First, just a couple of reminders. Please go ahead and run your audio setup wizard. This will ensure that you can hear and talk adequately throughout the session. You can find that icon up at the top left-hand corner. It's a little microphone with what looks like a red starburst on the top of it. And also go ahead and shut your door, put up the do not disturb sign, turn off your phone. This way we can ensure that you are fully prepared to focus on the session today, and this goes for our virtual listeners as well. Now let's do a quick quality check. I want to make sure that you can see the red record button in the upper right-hand corner, and also that you see the words quality check up at the top. You see those words, that means I have clicked the follow button, and you can see them. And I just want to ensure that you can hear me adequately, and if you cannot, please let me know. And if all of those are okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said earlier, today we are going to be covering the community of inquiry and how it relates to curriculum implementation at a distance. And for the virtual listeners, today is January 23rd, 2015. By the end of this workshop, you should be able to explain the three main components of the community of inquiry, or COI framework, relate the COI framework to curriculum implementation at a distance, and apply the COI framework to your discipline or field. Have you ever had to work on a project with people in another class, city, state, or country? I want you to think about some of the challenges and successes you experienced during that project. If you could just take a couple of minutes and jot down a few of your challenges and a few of the successes you experienced. And for those virtual listeners out there, just go ahead and pause the video, do this activity, and then come back when you're finished. Now, for those of you that were listening live, if you could use the chat box over to the left and go ahead and type in a couple of the, one challenge that you experienced during a project with people that you weren't working with face-to-face. And I'll go ahead and type in some of the successes that you experienced as well. As you can see, there are obviously positives and negatives in this process, but you've proven that it can be successful. Working on a project when you aren't face-to-face with your group mates is very similar to taking classes online. According to Randy Garrison, the community of inquiry is a group of individuals who collaboratively engage in purposeful critical discourse and reflection to construct personal meaning and confirm mutual understanding. This is critical in the classroom, but is also a large component when working with people at a distance. Garrison uses the Venn diagram below to explain the three main components of the COI framework. Those components being social presence, cognitive presence, and teaching presence. Garrison describes social presence as the ability of participants in a community of inquiry to project themselves socially and emotionally as real people through the medium of communication being used. We can establish our social presence during this workshop by using the chat box, using this different emoticons, the smiley faces, the check marks, and also just by talking with one another through the microphone, and even just having your picture on the on your profile will allow your classmates to put a face with your voice. A great way to establish social presence when working with people at a distance is to obviously use Skype. We find this very helpful in my job in academic affairs because we are working to explain our curriculum to faculty in Saudi Arabia. This allows us to put a face with the name and the emails and different things that we use. And another way that we establish social presence is when we share our files through Dropbox, because We can see when and what they have accessed and changed and how they're progressing through the material. I would like you to take a few minutes to write down how social presence can be applied to your discipline or field. And if you're doing this virtually, please pause the video and then come back when you're ready. Garrison describes cognitive presence as the extent to which learners are able to construct and confirm meaning through sustained reflection and discourse in a critical community of inquiry. Cognitive presence is most closely associated with critical thinking. Obviously, this is the goal of any class we take, but the question is, can it be achieved in an online environment? And I think so. It may require a little more planning on the teacher's part, but by having the students do case studies, actively participating in class discussions, or working on group activities, the teachers can see their students applying their knowledge and engaging in some critical thinking. When working with people at a distance, it is crucial that they have an understanding of the curriculum we're delivering to them. Obviously, face-to-face time would be the best way. That's not always possible when you're dealing with people that live on the other side of the world. This is when Skype calls, in addition to lengthy emails explaining the various components of the curriculum, are really helpful. Now, again, I would like you to take a few minutes to write down how cognitive presence can be applied to your discipline or field. Once again, for the virtual listeners, just pause the video and then come back when you're ready. The final component of the community of inquiry framework is teaching presence. Garrison defines teaching presence as the design, facilitation, and direction of cognitive and social processes for the purpose of realizing personally meaningful and educationally worthwhile learning outcomes. If the teacher does not set the proper tone for the course, it will not be successful. And for me personally, if I'm not explaining the course material and the best practices for implementing our curriculum in Saudi Arabia, their faculty will not know how to proceed. If they do not understand how the information is organized, they will not be able to manage the material on their end. That is why it was crucial that we develop a commercial Dropbox system for the delivery of our material. Now, once again, I would like you to take a few minutes to write down how teaching presence can be applied to your discipline or field. Same thing goes for the virtual listeners. Just go ahead and pause the video and come back when you're finished. This Dropbox system that we developed allows me to break down the material piece by piece. They can then use their knowledge about the course to choose the elements that they need to use and when they need to use it. We can share the folders with one another to easily see when things are updated. Here I've taken a screenshot of one of the courses that we use in our first year of medical school. And as you can see, I've broken the many elements of the course down. PowerPoints are separated from notes, lab manuals, etc. And then within each folder, it's broken down even further by week and then by topic so that the faculty can easily find what they need and when they need it by looking at the schedule or any of the syllabus, any of the other documents. Now, before we could start sending materials, it was vital that our Saudi Arabian faculty knew how to use Dropbox effectively. And here I'm going to show you a brief video explaining Dropbox. I'm going to put the URL in the chat box just in case this web tour doesn't work for someone. And this is a little less than 2 minutes, so we will be right back.
Meet Linda. Linda recently realized something about her team. Everyone has a different way of getting things done. But since they now use Dropbox for Business, finishing today's confidential presentation should be a piece of cake. So while Charles finalizes the contract on his PC, Sheila the freelancer is miles away on her Mac making final edits to the demo video. in the same folder at the same time. Meanwhile, George may be running late, but luckily he can review and approve the final presentation straight from his phone and instantly sync it with Allie, who, by the way, is currently 30,000 feet in the air, on her way to give the presentation in person. Ooh, that does not look good. But while Allie picks up a new computer, Dave in IT can remote wipe the files on her old one. And with the built-in audit features, check her sharing history to make sure today's confidential presentation stays confidential. Allie's old computer may be dead, but the presentation lives on. I'd say that went very well. So well, Linda is already talking to her boss, who's on a much-deserved family vacation. And since Dropbox for Business works with 300,000 apps all kinds of teams use, Linda's boss can get that new contract signed and synced so they can start production right away. Bravo, team. Even though everyone may work a little differently, with Dropbox for Business, they can simply do more together.
Okay, as you can see, this tool can be a game changer when you're doing work at a distance with many people involved. And I actually use this for nearly everything anymore, both personally and professionally, and it's incredibly helpful with this course when I'm doing things at work during my lunch break and then moving home and doing things from my laptop at home. So it's a great tool. Okay, to recap, the COI framework is composed of social presence, cognitive presence, and teaching presence. Now, these three elements come together to form an educational experience for the students. And you can see that here in the center of the diagram. Maybe. Let's try this again. There we go. Okay. That took a little longer than it should have. But as you can see, the three components come together in the middle of the diagram to form the educational experience. And lastly, I would like all of you to take your thoughts on how the COI framework applies to your discipline or field and email them to me as credit for attending this session. It doesn't need to be long, just short little bullets of how you can apply the social presence, cognitive presence, teaching presence to your discipline or field. And here you will see the reference for Garrison's book, E-Learning in the 21st Century, that I referred to throughout the session today. Thank you, and we will see you next time.